How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to my series on Michigan's ancient copper mining. This week is episode 4. I know last week's episode said 4, but I messed that up. It was actually 3, but this one's 4. So starting off, over the weekend I took a trip up to the Keweenaw Peninsula with the end goal of making it up to Copper Harbor. My main focus of this trip was just to explore around, get some new sites in and possible different areas to explore in the future and see what I could find in any of the areas, because it's a pretty interesting area up there. It's almost like you're not even in the same state anymore. The the roads follow through all these different rock formations, and it's almost like you're in the desert all of a sudden, and then you're driving through mountains. It's really cool. Along the way, we stopped in Houghton at the A.E. Seaman Mineral Museum, which is located on Michigan Tech University's campus. And the museum is well put together. It's excellent. The displays are full of detail and explanations of how these minerals and rocks were formed. They have every single different type of rock and gem mineral you can imagine in the world, from giant pieces of sheet copper to small pieces of meteorite, large meteorites, and every single crystal you can imagine as well. I strongly recommend, if you're ever in that area and it's open, go in, take a look. And they also, outside, they had a display of the large chunk of float copper that I know I've shown in my first or second video. So I had to, of course, I had to get a picture with it. And right next to it was a very large, different nugget of copper. It looked like it might have been dug out of the ground. After a few hours looking at rocks, we hit the road again and head north into the heart of copper country. This whole area of Michigan's Upper Peninsula is volcanic in origin. Billions of years ago, the world's largest lava flow ran from the tip of the Keweenaw all the way down to the west end of northern Wisconsin. And as you can see in this video here, the cliffs are just a straight sheer wall, very, very high up, and it just runs along the contour of Michigan's northwestern shoreline. After driving through the long, winding roads of the northern Keweenaw Peninsula, we made our way into Copper Harbor. And this is basically the top of the world in Michigan. And unfortunately, it's still the early season and nothing was open. So we couldn't stop for lunch or anything, but we decided to continue on down the road where US 41 ends and begins. For years, I'd always heard of this and seen pictures of this ship carving and some other carvings along with it, Petroglyph, in the area, but I had no idea where it was. You can't find it on a map. It's not listed anywhere. Most people don't want anyone to know where it is because out of fear of vandalization, because it has happened before where people try scratching out the carvings. Terribly horrible stuff. I don't know what brings people to do that, but so I completely understand why no one wants to give away the location of this ship carving. We figured we had a day to kill, and we strapped on our hiking boots and hit the woods in a general area of where I thought it would be. After a while of searching around, we came up on one of the first carvings that I knew was there, and it appears to be a bear. And I got excited as thinking, oh, we're in the spot. All right. So we looked around for another hour and a half, and my girlfriend, I hear her yell, "I found it!" And I ran up to where she was, and there it was, all in its glory, the ship Petroglyph of the Keweenaw. What's interesting about this ship carving is it appears old, but the ship is in the shape of something that was not present here anytime before European contact. It has a sail, a mast, and in the shape of many different old world boats. The theory is that between 3300 BC and 2000 BC, the water level of Lake Superior was higher, and the shoreline would have been almost right up to where this outcrop of rocks of where the carving is located. And it would make for a very good spot to land the ship and load up with any cargo, such as copper. Now, the Native Americans back in the day, and modern Native Americans, I say, after the BC times, had very large canoes capable of hauling 22 men and whatever types of cargo they needed, which definitely would have made it possible for them to haul copper. And this picture and video right here is one of the canoes that was discovered in Thousand Island Lake in northern Wisconsin on the Michigan border. It is now at the Northern Waters Resort and Casino in Watersmeet, Michigan on display. This canoe is 32 foot 6 inches long, 31 inches wide at the center, and is 21 inches high. And the walls are 1.5 inches thick. It is made out of a single piece of white pine log as a white pine back before all the logging were absolutely monstrous. They're huge, they're massive. So I would imagine they had many of these canoes. And it was definitely seaworthy for local lakes and rivers. But if they had an outrigger put onto it, it would most likely be capable of navigating the Great Lakes. So if any of the natives in the area had dugout canoes and not mast ships, who carved the ship into the rock? As I've said, it resembles ships from the Old World in Europe and Eurasia, such as the Minoans or the Phoenicians. They had ships like that. Other theories were it was a Viking ship. And we know they were here before Columbus and Vespucci. They were known to have been up in Newfoundland, which is the same area as the St. Lawrence Seaway. So it could have been them. It could have been anyone. And if it was someone in the BC era from Europe or Eurasia, Anatolia, Crete, they would have had the same type of access to the St. Lawrence Seaway and into Lake Superior as well. While a lot of skeptics kind of poo-poo away that the carving is ancient by any means, they say some rapscallions back in the 70s were having fun drinking some beers and said, hey, let's carve some rocks. Carve some drawings in these rocks. The drawings are pretty intricate for how primitive they are. I mean, it is hard stone. I believe it's basalt, and it's uniformly carved all the way around. It's hard to believe that a couple of kids having a few beers would just take the time and chisel away a very nice, well-made petroglyph. So after finding the petroglyph and then reading about it for years, I decided to do a little bit more research into any other Native American petroglyphs or carvings or wall paintings across the United States and North America that resembled any mast ship, and I found a few. The Jordana tribe of New Mexico had a mast ship petroglyph carved into the rocks in some areas, and if you know anything about where New Mexico is located, it's quite a ways from any shorelines, let alone easily accessible from the ocean. The Jordana tribe declined at the end of the 15th century, which would have coincided with the European contact. So either someone from their tribe had traveled far east and seen these ships and came back and carved it to tell the tale of what they saw, which is the most likely theory about that carving, but it is still pretty similar to the style of ship in the Michigan petroglyph. Many subscribe to the theory or the idea that the Phoenicians or the Minoans were the ones that had carved the petroglyph as a kind of like a docking area. When the water from Lake Superior was higher, the outcropping in the rock that the ship carving is located on would have been very easily seen from the lake level and could have been a symbol of, hey, dock here, good spot to dock in this bay. The reason this theory has always been thrown around is because the Minoans and the Phoenicians at the height of the Bronze Age were masters of seafaring and trading across the Mediterranean all the way up to the British Isles and to the northwest coast of Africa. Their ships were more than seaworthy to have made it across the Atlantic if they tried or wanted to. The argument for this theory was the amount of bronze that they manufactured in the Bronze Age and the amount of copper that they had to use for the bronze and traded across the ancient world. And now we come to the theory of the Vikings, Scandinavians making their way into Lake Superior, using the same methods before as using the area where the ship carving is as a docking area to either load cargo or get out and explore, trade, etc. And I had found that there is also a ship petroglyph in Petroglyphs Provincial Park in Ontario, Canada. This site, although it's not directly on the St. Lawrence Seaway or the St. Lawrence River, it is close enough to where possibly the Scandinavians were exploring North America towards the end of the millennia, turn of the millennia into 900 to 1000 AD, that someone had traded with them and gone back and carved what they saw. Petroglyphs Provincial Park is an area that contains over 300 petroglyphs carvings. It's Anishinaabe in origin, and in their language, now I'm going to read this carefully. I know I'm going to butcher it, but they called it Keenumagawabkang, which can be roughly translated to the teaching stones. It all comes back around to the question, who carved the ship petroglyph in Upper Peninsula? Could it have been a hoax? Some kids back in the 70s carved it as a joke? Could it have been the Minoans or the Phoenicians that came across mining and traded for or mined the copper? Or could it have been the Vikings making their way all the way across the Atlantic Ocean from Iceland to Greenland to Vinland, down the St. Lawrence Seaway, into the Great Lakes region? At this point in time, unfortunately, we still don't have any real answers on it. But there are so many other theories out there, and I'd love to learn more, so I'm going to keep digging into this as well as other stuff. And if you have any theories of your own, drop them in the comments. Let me know. Maybe we can expand this web. And eventually, if there's any other evidence of ship carvings around North America or South America that predate known European contact, the internet's an interesting place sometimes when you're trying to find something that would go against the grain of anything agreed upon in the accredited archaeological scientific community. Regardless, makes for a good story otherwise. And if you do happen to ever make your way in finding this carving, please keep the location to yourself as much as possible. It has already been defaced a few times, and we don't want it to be destroyed. No one wants it destroyed. And that is why you can't find any locations for it, is because it is a hidden gem. We want to preserve it and keep it in the best shape possible for as long as possible. So if you do make your way to the area, respect the petroglyphs. Look, don't touch, don't chip away, don't do anything stupid. Take pictures, tell stories, look around, find more. Maybe you'll find something nobody's found yet. It's the end of the world up there. There's more wilderness than people. There is almost nothing except for the wilds of Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Once again, thanks for joining me today. Hope you liked the video. I definitely will be making more trips up into the Keweenaw, getting more areas, trying to get more footage, more pictures, and hopefully get some more information on any of the ancient miners, any unknown sites. Hopefully talk to some locals in the area, and if they have anything interesting on their properties, hopefully check it out and try to get more evidence or details and questions or answers to who mined the copper in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. So thank you, and we'll see you next week.